far along when it comes to transformation. Let me give some credit where credit is due. President Trump has led on this, issued 4 executive orders directing transformation of defense acquisition, spurring innovation of the defense industrial base in particular, and the entire federal procurement process and foreign military sales in general. That's because the president recognizes one simple fact: America's military is the greatest in the world by far, and we must keep it that way. Our commander-in-chief is leading the way, affording us, this is what is so key in any effort like this, affording us the top cover to do big, hard, and necessary things quickly. Members of the House and Senate Armed Services Committee, on a bipartisan basis, have advanced proposals to reform Pentagon procurement through the SPEED Act and the Forged Act. Through their close collaboration and extensive exchanges with Congress, much of what we are planning and announcing directly reflects the insights and reform ideas that have emerged from those ongoing partnerships. Many of the changes we're implementing today are the direct result of those congressional engagements, and we look forward to continuing this vital collaboration as we transform the department. So I want to thank Chairman Wicker and Chairman Rogers, especially for their leadership on these issues. Together, these executive orders, the congressional reforms, and the efforts by the services and department leadership, many of which are already underway, will enable 5 broad transformations. 1, inspire American industry to become a wartime industrial base that focuses on speed and volume through reliable demand and adaptable business practices for current partners and new entrants alike. 2, unleash the defense, industrial, and government workforces by incentivizing progress over process. 3, bias new acquisition and requirements processes for speed, flexibility, and efficiency. And 4, championing technical excellence and higher risk thresholds to accelerate high performance production. And 5, provoke war speed or warp speed by procuring rapidly and sustaining readily, cost effectively as the default, not the exceptions. So in short, those are broad principles. We mean to increase acquisition risk in order to decrease operational risk. Let me say that again. We mean to increase acquisition risk in order to decrease operational risk. By taking greater calculated risk in how we build, buy, and maintain our systems, we will gain speed to more quickly provide capabilities to the battlefield. An 85% solution in the hands of our armed forces today is infinitely better than an unachievable 100% solution, endlessly undergoing testing or awaiting additional technological development. These are of no use to troops in harm's way. So to the men and women of this department, both military and civilian, who work on acquisition, and our industry partners, let me say this: you are not our enemies in this effort, but you are our allies. You are Obi-Wan Kenobi. You are our only hope. I hear this. I hear the frustrations of the senseless bureaucracy, the constraints. I hear it every day. You know there is waste. You know there is abuse. You know there are outdated, useless, and silly regulations that squander taxpayer money. You also have ideas to help us defend the United States better, to reform our processes for the better, to make our processes more responsive to the needs of the warfighter. As we move forward, we need your help and your help as we transform this effort. As I said at Quantico, consider yourself hereby liberated. In transforming the acquisitions process within the Pentagon, we will build on the tenets of restoring the warrior ethos, rebuilding the military, and reestablishing deterrence. We cannot achieve the last 2 without infusing the first throughout the acquisitions ecosystem, including the boardrooms, the labs, and the factories of our indispensable industry partners. The first step in achieving the warrior ethos, as I emphasized at Quantico, requires that we expect the same from our partners. It's imperative that industry focus on hiring and promoting individuals based on merit and not on some garbage ideological standard. DEI has failed at every level of every organization. In our system of acquisition, we all serve the men and women in uniform and are accountable to the American taxpayer, but we all have a specific role. The Pentagon establishes expectations and outcomes and accountability. Industry provides the talent, the innovation, and the agility, and the capacity that allows us to meet our goals. As with our warriors, the performance standards that industry needs to meet must be high and unwavering. Tolerance for underperformance and failure, low. And the imperative for continuous improvement, relentless. To achieve these goals, it's paramount that human capital decisions across the entire warfighting acquisitions enterprise are predicated upon merit and optimally enable the recruitment, retention, and mobility of our nation's best talent. Just as I told the uniform ranks, personnel is policy. So too in acquisition. Human capital decisions focused on hiring, promoting, rewarding, and accountability will directly determine the success of acquisitions reform. And more importantly, whether or not we save our republic. That's how important it is. The time for half measures, it's been over for decades, as Secretary Rumsfeld's speech reminds us. We're taking bold and swift action to transform requirements development, overhaul our acquisitions process, and enhance foreign military sales. But we're not just doing this in silos. The development of this transformation has prioritized civil-military collaboration at every step, ensuring both our civilian and military leaders across the services and the joint staff directly contributed to the development of the coordination of this overhaul. This was not OSW sitting in a room thinking up ideas. This was collaborative across the Pentagon with the services and the joint staff to figure out how we can make this happen. This is a team effort at the Pentagon, not a hostile takeover. Here are the 5 overarching transformative pillars that form the foundation on the procurement process. First, we will stabilize demand signals. We will award companies bigger, longer contracts for proven systems. So those companies will be confident in investing more to grow the industrial base that supplies our weapon systems more and faster. Second, we will prioritize the purchase of industry-driven solutions, commercial solutions first, that meet our needs faster, even if that means bids do not meet every requirement. It means that we will be open to buying the 85% solution and iterate together over time to achieve the 100% solution. It also means there will be no non-compliant bids. Third, we will empower our program leaders with the control, expertise, and authority to direct program outcomes, to move money, and quickly adjust the priority of required system performance to deliver on time and under budget. Fourth, we will inject urgency and excellence into the DIB. The Department of War will only do business with industry partners that share our priority of speed and volume above all else, who are willing to surge American manufacturing at the speed of ingenuity to deliver rapidly and reliably for our warfighters. And fifth, regulatory reform. We will remove excessive and burdensome FAR and DFARS rules, reporting requirements, accounting standards, excessive testing oversight, excessively long studies and analysis. Anything that unnecessarily slows down government contracts will be eliminated. So the bottom line is this. These changes will move us from the current prime contractor-dominated system defined by limited competition, vendor lock, cost-plus contracts, stressed budgets, and frustrating protests to a future powered by a dynamic vendor space that accelerates production by combining investment at a commercial pace with the uniquely American ability to scale quickly. Taken together, we will rebuild the defense industrial base into a new arsenal of freedom. What we're doing today marks a new horizon for how we acquire and deliver warfighting capabilities. We are prioritizing speed, flexibility, competition, and calculated risk-taking. We will buy commercial solutions to the maximum extent possible, practicable, and will ensure our systems can produce at scale and relentlessly focus on delivering modern lethal weapons to our warfighters. End of story. To fix this entire process, We need to fix the heart of it all, which is requirements. For decades, our requirements process, under the name, and you know it well, Joint Capabilities Integration Development System, or JIDS, has become an inefficient bureaucratic system in need of a complete overhaul. Which is why today, at my direction, we are transforming the department's process for joint requirements determination. Re-envisioning the requirements process is a decisive step in rebuilding the nation that once led the world in turning ideas into combat power, thoughts into lethality. I am canceling JIDS, which moved at the speed of paperwork, not war. To put it plainly, JIDS became a years-long bureaucratic anchor that dragged us down while our adversaries surged ahead with purpose and precision. JIDS was focused on defining systems requirements, staffing them through countless oversight boards, and then locking them down, while threats and technologies continued to evolve. To validate requirements documents, JIDS often took over 300 days. Yes, 300 days to close to one whole year just to approve a single document. By the time it got stamped, and it probably was stamped, the threat had changed and the warfighters' needs had shifted. The process was so complicated that there is a 400-page instruction manual just to understand it, imposing endless templates and layers for review. JIDS had dozens of reviewers and sign-offs and hundreds of comments to approve a single document. It's its own ecosystem, most of which added little to no value. We tried to please everyone, so we chased consensus instead of clarity. It became a go-along to get along process. The result? Overspecified requirements that satisfy everyone and serve no one. A process built to serve the process. Our industry partners know the biggest obstacle isn't technology, it's our processes. Requirements are unclear or overly prescriptive and even contradict themselves, like that last sentence. They're either so rigid that they strangle innovation or so vague that nobody knows what done actually looks like. Contractors waste time guessing instead of building. The result, cost overruns, frustration on both sides, and delayed delivery to the warfighter. What industry is asking for is simple: clear, stable problem statements, provided early enough to plan, hire, and train the workforce, and then invest in capital modernization. We rarely engage innovators early, and when we do, the process tries to retrofit their ideas into outdated formats. Existing industry partners who understand the cumbersome process don't even bother to innovate. They know there is no upside to innovation. Rigid standards and archaic templates choke the agility that we need. That's why innovation groups exist to bypass JIDS entirely and deliver faster. The lesson is obvious. If we want innovation, and we desperately do, we must build a requirement system that welcomes it instead of smothers it. You can catch a glimpse of where we're moving when it comes to our commitment to acquiring critical munitions and the Golden Dome. Secretary Gates, for example, circumvented the Pentagon process to quickly develop and field the MRAP. Now, we're already moving at wartime speed on both of those, Golden Dome and munitions, working outside the slow bureaucratic process. But we shouldn't have to go outside the process to make it work. Urgent needs are met by circumventing it. We can't rely on that. Instead, the entire process must move at the speed of critical munitions, Golden Dome, and the MRAP. In short, we can't continue making big promises we can't keep. The people who define what we need aren't linked to the people who control the money or build the systems. So requirements move forward on paper, but the funding and execution don't follow. By the way, if folks are watching this on Fox, their eyes are rolling over. But everyone in this room understands exactly what I'm talking about. The result: plans without resources, programs without liftoff, and warfighters waving for capabilities that arrive late or never arrive at all. No feedback loop, no shared priorities, and no accountability. Until we connect need, money, and delivery under one roof, we keep producing wish lists instead of weapons. President Trump recognized the reality and challenged our department to adopt a wartime mindset, to confront the bloated and inefficient bureaucracy. And that is why today, at my direction, we are undertaking a series of actions that immediately and fundamentally change how we develop requirements to get capabilities into the hands of our warfighters at speed. We're ending a system that was built for paperwork, not mission. JIDS is dead, and it was slow and bloated and disconnected from reality, and we will do better. I'm directing the Joint Requirements Oversight Council, the JROC, to stop validating service requirements and to kill the paperwork culture that buries ideas before they ever reach the field. In its place, we're building a new model focused on speed, alignment, and action. We're also reorienting the JROC to start identifying and ranking the joint forces' toughest problems, what we call joint operational problems. The problems will drive the priorities for the entire department. That is why today, at my direction, we're standing up 3 new decision forums in place of JIDS. The first is the Requirements and Resourcing Alignment Board, or RRAB, a new decision forum co-led by the Deputy Secretary of War and the Vice Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to tie money directly to those top warfighting priorities. We will ensure the Joint Forces' top problems are funded. We're also creating the Mission Engineering and Integration Activity, or MEIA, to bring the best minds, government, industry, and labs together early to experiment, integrate, iterate, and prototype solutions instead of watching good ideas die at the hands of a worthless process. And to make sure good ideas don't die in the infamous Valley of Death, we're establishing the Joint Acceleration Reserve, or JAR, a funding pool set aside to move promising solutions straight into the fight. Finally, each military service will review and reform its own requirements process, cutting red tape, engaging industry earlier, and aligning internal priorities to the new joint system. So what do we believe this new process will achieve? Speed replaces process, money follows need, joint problems drive action, experimentation accelerates delivery, and the services move faster and smarter. Take contested logistics, for example. When we fight, our ability to move weapons, supplies, and reinforcements to the front lines and back, it's critical. We can stay in the fight only as long as our logistics sustain us. Our adversaries know this, and they will attack our supply routes, ports, airfields, depots, and information systems in order to disrupt us. We must be able to fight in this contested environment, and these reforms will ensure that we can. We'll start by elevating contested logistics as a key prioritized operational problem. We're going to work side by side with our industry partners to come up with innovative solutions through experimentation and rapid prototyping and ensure that it's properly funded. Logistics will be prioritized, integrated, and delivered quickly and as long as our warfighters need it. See, we're moving from process to purpose and from paper to power projection. And this is not a minor requirements reform, it is a transformation. A change that allows us to outpace our adversaries and restore deterrence. Field capabilities quickly and welcome new entrants. A chance to achieve President Trump's vision of peace through strength. Every leader, every program, and every dollar will face one simple test. Are we delivering real capability to the warfighter faster than we were before? If the answer is no, we will adapt. We will not stop, and we will not back down. That was requirements. On to acquisitions. Hand in hand with requirements is acquisitions transformation, which is why today, at my direction, the Department of War will immediately begin implementing a comprehensive overhaul of our acquisition system. President Trump did not send us here to nibble at the edges. He sent us here to fix it. And that's exactly what we plan to do. As mentioned earlier, President Trump's executive orders direct the department to modernize acquisition for speed, flexibility, and efficiency, to revitalize the defense industrial base and leverage America's commercial innovation, to incentivize our acquisitions workforce, encourage risk-taking, and cut red tape, promoting efficiency and enhancing competition. That is why today, at my direction, the defense acquisition system, as you know it, is dead. It's now the warfighting acquisitions system. And this isn't just a name change, it's a fundamental shift in how we view and practice acquisition. General Omar Bradley once noted that amateurs talk about tactics, but professionals study logistics, and of course he's right. Wars are won and lost not only by warriors on the battlefield, but by acquisition and industry professionals who shape the fight years before it ever takes place. That's all of us and all of you. Acquisition is a warfighting function, and it must enable and encourage continuous adaptation and improvement of our warfighting capability. We need acquisition and industry to be as strong and fast as our warfighters. The warfighting acquisition system will dramatically shorten timelines, improve and expand the defense industrial base, boost competition, and empower acquisition officials to take risks and make trade-offs. We're leaving the old, failed process behind, and will instead embrace a new, agile, and results-oriented approach. What used to take, sometimes when you add it up with requirements, 3 to 8 years, we believe can happen within a year. That old approach had 3 systemic challenges. First, fragmented accountability where no single leader could make trade-offs between speed, performance, and cost. No one's in charge. Second, broken incentives that reward compliance with rules and regulations, ignoring schedule delays and cost overruns, resulting in our warfighters operating with old, unreliable legacy systems. And third, a chaotic requirements, budgeting, and contracting environment that disincentivized industry investment, leading to constrained capacity that cannot surge or adapt quickly without government intervention and, of course, more and more funding. The core principle of the acquisitions transformation we are unveiling today is simple. Place accountable decision makers as close as possible to the program execution, eliminate the layers of bureaucracy that hinder them, and then empower them with the authorities and flexibility to drive timely delivery. Eliminating the layers of bureaucracy means every program, every process, every board, and every review must justify its existence by demonstrating value in a timely manner of capabilities to the warfighter. Those that are of low or no value will be eliminated so we can continue to accelerate our speed of delivery to the warriors. Here's what you can expect. Today, at my direction, we are transforming and reorganizing the existing program executive offices, or PEOs, into portfolio acquisition executives, or PAEs. The acquisition chain of authority will run directly from the program manager to the PAE. Each PAE will be the single accountable official for portfolio outcomes and have the authority to act without running through months or even years of approval chains, and they'll be held accountable to deliver results. Now, these PAEs will be empowered with the authorities to make decisions on cost, schedule, and performance trade-offs that prioritize time to field and mission outcomes. That means less time identifying what our warfighters need, releasing solicitations to industry, and finalizing contracts to get production running at scale. Our warfighters, as you know, can't wait decades for the tools they need to deter and fight our wars and to win them. The current pace of technological innovation is unprecedented. The services deal with it every day. By the time we field new capabilities, they need to be upgraded and then upgraded repeatedly to maintain edge over our adversaries. And it's not just software that needs regular updating, but the critical components as well. But the time to make those updates in production, let alone putting them in contract, is delaying schedules by years. Everyone in here knows it. Years. And we're done with that status quo. Which is why today, at my direction, the Department of War will issue guidance within the next 180 days for portfolio acquisition executives to implement several game-changing practices. We will establish adaptable test approaches that enable rapid certification, evaluate multi-track acquisition strategies to allow third-party surge manufacturing capacity, Maintain a standard to carry at least 2 qualified sources through initial production. And lastly, we will establish module-level competition through modular open systems approach. The Department's Office of Department's Office of Research and Engineering, led by Undersecretary of War Emil Michael, along with Mike Duffy, will issue these revised guidelines. A&S and R&E.